Okay. In this video we will look at what a transistor is. A transistor uses semiconductor material, so it's based on. Before we looked at resistors and how they were made with conductive material, conductors, with carbon, and also it was made with insulators. So before we have materials that are conductors, and we have semiconductors. Then we have insulators. So we have these three types of material. Here we had silver, copper, gold, carbon, all sorts of stuff in here. And for semiconductors we have silicon. We have silicon germanium. We have gallium arsenide. We have all sorts of materials for semiconductors, and we hear the term silicon often. So you have the Silicon Valley, anything that's artificial or robotic is silicon. So it's based off of this silicon material. And then we have insulators. You have glass is an insulator. You have all sorts of insulative material. And we're using semiconductors because you can control whether the current flows or not. So that ability to control is a major advantage for transistors. In all the components we looked at so far, we looked at resistors, which combines conductors and insulators. So we saw resistors, and from insulating material we can actually make capacitors, and from magnetic material we can make inductors. So here we have two leads, two contact points. Here we have two contact points and two contact points. The main difference for transistors is that it has three contact points like this. So 1, 2, and 3. So the current will flow in this direction, and by applying a voltage here and current here, we can control the amount of current that flows down. So it's like a valve. Think of the transistor as a valve or a switch where you can control the current. But here, once current flows through, there's no way of controlling this for any of these. So that's the basic advantage for transistors. So for transistors you have BJT transistors, which are called bipolar junction transistors. You also have Mosfet transistors, or FET. This is called field effect transistors. And these are the type of transistors that are used in smartphones most often. The FETs. You have MOSFETs, various different types of FETs. MOSFET stands for metal oxide silicon. So metal oxide silicon field effect transistor. So in a chip like this that I showed earlier in a different video, so this is an integrated circuit, an IC chip. So we call these ICs because it integrates a whole network of transistors like this or this. The MOSFET transistor has a symbol that looks like this, which is similar to this in that it has 3 leads, but has a slightly different shape. So a chip like this has about 15 to 20 of these transistors inside here, along with capacitors like this and resistors, and perhaps even some inductors, depending on the chip. So this is the main idea for transistors, and these are made on silicon wafers. So in semiconductor companies like Intel or other companies make these cylinder wafers like this, and then so this is made from silicon, and then the wafers are cut, sliced horizontally. So you'll have from this you'll have a single wafer like that, and on this wafer you have this is divided into something like looks like this, and so one of these chips is the chip that we see over here. So one of these slots. So each wafer will have many of these chips, and when this chip is taken out, well, it's not this chip. This is actually packaged. So when this IC is taken out, then it's packaged into something that looks like this, so that you can easily put it into a circuit board, a breadboard, and test out that chip. Okay. This is the main idea for, well, the basic concept for transistors.